Richard Gere, Alejandra Silva, ¿qué tal? Muy buenos días.
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Mr. Gere, you've been there. You've been in the Open Arms ship. It's going towards Italy now, but it's not there yet. Salvini won't allow the ship to be at port, to reach port. What did you see in there?
Actually, I just got off the phone with Ricardo, who is our contact down there, who I was on the boats with. And he is getting the information out about what's happening. He said they are, in fact, 5 miles offshore right now in Italian waters. They have not been given permission to enter Lampedusa port. There's a confusion between what Salvini is insisting on and what the other ministers are allowing him to do. At this point, he's been trying to have a new decree to keep the boats out of Italian waters. The rest of the ministers, apparently the defense minister in particular, refuses to sign that decree. So the boat is now 5 miles offshore. I believe, from what they're telling me, that the Coast Guard now is on is in Congress with the boat, meaning that they are understanding that they are legal to be in Italian waters, although they were harassed last night by Salvini boats and were told they could not enter.
They were harassed
So
by the government's boats?
Yes, they were.
What does that exactly mean?
In front of the Open Arms boat, they tried to stop its passage, and they told the captain that they were not allowed. They were then informed that the court proceedings had said just the opposite, that there was a gross abuse of power on the part of Salvini, and that in fact there was no longer a ban against them entering. At which point the boats allowed passage, but not into the port of Lampedusa. So they're now sitting 5 miles out waiting for details of when and if they will be able to disembark the passengers.
Mr. Gere, how would you describe the political blockage? How would you describe the political situation?
Well, let's go to the human situation, because that's the most important one. I arrived down there, was it 3 days ago? I was down there? 4 days ago?
4 days ago.
And I went very spontaneously. I've been an admirer of Open Arms and the other boats that are doing this kind of extraordinary work of helping people, literally plucking people out of the water who would die otherwise. And talking to Oscar Camps, my son, who also came on the boat with me, he asked him, how many people have you saved? And Oscar said, over 50,000 people they've plucked out of the water and saved their lives. Extraordinary. When I went on the boat, of course, one hears all kinds of things, mostly from the conservative right-wing fringe fascist groups, that these are murderers, killers, rapists, et cetera, et cetera. It's the same kind of thing we hear about the Mexican border in the U.S., that these people are demonized by a political faction that seems to have lost all sense of human dignity. When we went on the boat, the people were so happy to see us, and very quickly I realized that these were people so much like me, my own family, my own friends, who were, the metaphor I use is they were jumping out of a burning house. And the people who were there on this boat were the firemen and the rescue workers and the doctors who were helping them after they had jumped out of this burning house. Salvini and these right-wing neo-fascist kind of people are not only praising them, instead they are penalizing them for saving these people and then forcing them to go back into the burning house. I would caution anyone who has a completely negative picture of these people, please go see them. Please go on a boat. please talk to one of us who's actually been there with them, and you realize that these are just normal people who have been innocent people, innocent, normal people, like you and me.
Their babies,
women, children, families, people who have been traumatized by their trip away from various countries all over Africa, have been funneled through Libya, which is a hell realm. They've all been abused. The women have all been raped. There's been torture. There's been all kinds of traumas, more than I would want to say on a general radio show like this. But anything you can imagine has been done to these people.
But it shocks me. You are portraying this as a humanitarian crisis. We believe it is. But the governments are not. They're saying this is a political crisis. And there is a problem about who is going to take whom. Who's going to take the share of the biggest number of refugees. So I would just ask again, what's the situation? Is this a political crisis or is this a humanitarian crisis?
Okay, they're both, but primarily it's a humanitarian one. If we don't feel the pain and suffering of these people, then of course we're not going to find a political solution. This is a very small planet we live on. And if we don't take care of each other, then we have huge problems down the line. If we do see these as our brothers and sisters, of course there's a political solution. There aren't that many of them. This is a boat. When we were on it, it was 121 people. And then they had just picked up survivors from another boat that was sinking that had 39 people. There are several other boats that are out there now. One is the Sea Viking, the Ocean Viking, which is Doctors Without Borders, runs that boat. There's another boat out there. I think there's 3 at this moment.
With people in it.
That have people. Some of them, I think the Doctors Without Borders has over 300 survivors on theirs. So the political crisis, I understand the problem that the Italians government and people might be having with this, the Spanish government, the Greek government and people. This is not only their problem, it's a pan-European problem. And I might say it's a global issue. You have to deal with things in 2 ways. One, the immediate emergency, and of course we have to help people. We're capable of doing that, and we should do that, and we will do that. The other side is to see this long term and have a strategy so that these things don't happen again. We fix the problems locally, and in this case, mostly Africa. And of course, we're seeing the outcome of 100 years or more of colonialism, which has created many of the problems that these people are now running from.
Mr. Gere,
now, in terms of politics, I've spoken to many heads of state.
I was going to ask you exactly about that. You and Alejandra have a tremendous reach. You can talk to the governments. You can talk to the politicians. Have you spoken to them? Have they told you they're going to do anything? Have you spoken to the Spanish government, for example?
Yeah, I consider the president a friend. We spent quite a long time with him talking about the homeless situation. And I found him to be very sensitive, knowledgeable. He understood the situation. But to be quite frank, when I did talk to him from the actual boat, and we had a long conversation, and I kept reiterating to him how much I believe in his basic goodness and sensitivity. He obviously was looking at this from a political point of view, not from a humanist point of view. And which leads me to believe that all of the leaders of Europe have to hear from their people. If the people tell them to do something rational and responsible and heartfelt in this situation, they will do it. If the hearts of people of the population are closed, are poisoned by the Salvinis of the world, by the Trumps of the world, of course, nothing will happen. So this is a situation where the people themselves have to communicate with their leaders and say, we want this to happen. We want these people to be helped, and we want the root causes to be dealt with. Now, the EU in this situation is the key to this. The presidents, the prime ministers, the chancellor have to get together and decide a rational quota system to take these people.
You spoke to the president of France. Did you talk to the prime minister of Spain? Have you talked to Pedro Sanchez?
Pedro Sanchez I have spoken to, as I said. And again, I have admiration for him as a human being. I felt very, very positive and optimistic about him as a Spanish leader. Obviously, he's also a political person, and he takes into account the politics of the situation. But the politics of the situation are highly influenced by what the people want. Now, again, if the people of Europe are being brainwashed into demonizing Africans who are jumping from a burning house, of course, nothing will happen. If the people's hearts are softened and see things realistically and honestly and truthfully, and disregard this kind of right-wing fascist talk, which we have all over Europe and in the US right now, then of course these problems can be solved. If we look at this situation, and I think most people consider themselves spiritual, if not religious, but respond to love, respond to compassion. You look at this and you say, what side would the angels be on? What side of this issue would the angels be on? On these poor people who've been so traumatized in Africa and are just looking to get out of a burning house, or on the side of these very conservative right-wing people demonizing other human beings.
Cuando Richard estuvo en el barco, nos contaron a él unas historias, la verdad que sus historias, vamos, reales. Y decían, mira, no confiaban en nadie ni en nada para saber, porque decían, ¿qué hacemos aquí? ¿Por qué no nos lleváis a puerto? ¿Cómo es Europa? ¿Dónde nos lleváis? ¿Nos van a torturar allí también, como nos torturaron en Libia? Porque la gente nos contaba que llegaban después de 6 meses, escapando de cada uno de sus casas, de sus países, llegaban a puerto en Libia y a los niños se traficaba con los niños y con las mujeres y con todos, vamos, y era una tortura tremenda. Ellos salen de Libia, del puerto de allí, y les dicen, sí, no te preocupes, mira la luz esa de ahí, vosotros vais para allí, os los meten todos en un barco cuando ya después de varios meses de tortura, y les dicen, mirad, ustedes vayan hacia la luz. Van hacia la luz, que simplemente es una boya, porque no es una luz real, y lo único que esperan es que ellos mueran en el agua. Los mandan a morir. Y ellos, antes de volver a Libia, ellos dicen, yo me tiro del barco y quiero ahogarme, yo no quiero volver ahí. Son personas inocentes, son niños, mujeres, hombres, todos inocentes, de verdad. No hay ningún criminal, no hay nadie que tenga pensado ir a Europa para hacer ningún acto criminal. Son personas que están huyendo de una situación imposible, cada uno de su país y cada uno de un sitio.
Mr. Gere, one final question for both of you. You're saying there is a new political wave in the US with Trump, in Italy with Salvini, in Spain with the far right. Do you fear that you personally, both of you, will pay a price, will pay a toll, that Hollywood will not hire you, that, Alejandra, you might pay a price for this, being seen, being perceived as a political activist?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, look, first of all, I don't have any fear that way. But all of us, I mean, we're here on this planet a very short time. Maybe 100 years if we're lucky. Look at the age of the planet and the billions and billions of years ahead of us. This is a little blip we have, a moment where we can make a positive difference right now. And this is an issue which you feel all the emotion around this. I mean, it's clear if you look at it rationally what is the right and wrong of the situation.
Yeah.
But you see how easily we are all manipulated by dark forces. And we know who those dark forces are. Trump is probably the darkest on the planet right now. And I take responsibility for that. I'm talking to Spanish people now, but you may fear the dark forces of the right and conservative fascist elements. We have it much worse in the US, frankly. But personally, I see this as a challenge. This is a moment for us to really look at ourselves and say, what do I want to be? What do I want my children to feel about me and what I represent to them as a model in the world of caring about people and doing the right thing, or being angry, dark, hateful, and liars? We have a choice. It's a wonderful challenge, and I'm very optimistic. I think we'll make the right choice. We have to throw out these people, these politicians who are dark and angry and hateful and lie to us constantly, and start to have politicians who lead us with positive visions.
Alejandra, Richard,
Sí.
gracias a los dos. Muchísimas gracias. Un beso.
Vale,
Thank
muchísimas
you.
gracias. Un
Goodbye,
beso, hasta
everybody.
luego.
Ciao.
Gracias.